Yeah. Okay.
Welcome to another reading of Lord Maher. We're on page 2839, chapter heading, continuing with the new life. And the year is 1949. And we're starting with Rosalie reading from the top of the page. Thanks a lot.
Continuing the new life. Baba was to help in the training period until the 31st of December. Yet there was no money for even the cheapest of food. This period required an extra 600 to 700 rupees, which had not been budgeted. Baba discussed the problem at length with the companions, inviting suggestions as to how to obtain the sum. However, no remedy within the conditions of the new life was found. Then, putting forward this idea, Baba declared, we'd better sell off all our personal belongings, such as our clothes, trunks, etc. It was estimated that even this would not fetch more than 400 rupees. But considering food more important than clothing, even in winter, Baba stated, the trunks and clothing should be delivered to Dr. Nath and Dr. Kari for whatever use they like, to keep them as a memory of our visit in the new life. They may pay 1,000 rupees towards the purchase of foodstuffs, whereby until December 31st, the problem of food will be solved. Both doctors and Gaya Prasad readily consented to the proposal. They paid the amount at once, and the trunks and clothes were handed over to them. The clothing included a coat of Baba's and one of the Sadras. I'm sure it wasn't the Kamli coat. The doctors then sent word that they wished to return the things as Bhiksha, but Baba refused to accept them back. They had actually accepted everything with this in mind. But Baba did not agree because he wanted his companions to pass through difficult situations and had thus purposely created the shortage of funds. After this problem was solved, Baba quipped to his companions, while leaving Mehrabad on October 16th, we were, comparatively speaking, lightweight. At Benares, with the disposal of our trunks and old life clothing, we have become featherweight. And who knows? I don't promise. After January 1st, we may become air weight, AIR weight. Baba decided to leave Benares for Sarnath on the 1st of December. He sent words to Dr. Nath and Dr. Kare to forward the camel cart, cows, and donkeys there. They were doing everything possible for Baba, but Baba was not actually seeing them and was communicating only through the companions. Yet both doctors felt satisfied and happy with even this much. Baba was desirous of having a white horse in the caravan. And Gaya Prasad Kare saw this as an opportunity and expressed his wish to procure such a horse for him. Baba accepted, instructing that the white horse, when obtained, should be delivered to Sarnath. Thus, during Baba's 2-week stay in Benares, both families rendered invaluable services to him. On Thursday, 1st December 1949, Baba joined the companions after tea and handed Ghani a chit with 2 Urdu couplets to be read out. describing the old and the new life. Discard now the imaginary dream of separation. You were God, you are God, but now become God. Make yourself miserable, battered, shattered, destitute, and inaccessible. Become the voice of calamity, distress, sorrow, and troubles. Baba then set out on foot for Sarnath with the men and women companions, and age was able to add new material to its storehouse of treasure. The companions were not ready to taste the wine of love from their beloved. And so he himself, playing the part of devotee, had forsaken everything material for their benefit. Though the gods were sharing in this divine drama, not having gross bodies, they were unable to have his physical contact. And for this, they envied the companions. Baba left first at 7 a.m. with the women, accompanied by Adi Sr. to guide them. The men companions left after loading the luggage into a truck while walking while shouldering their meager belongings. Soon the men formed the advance group, and Baba and the women followed a furlong behind. Baba at times went ahead to be with the men and then returned to the women. Each one's heart echoed the chorus of the New Life song. Listen to the silent words of Meher Baba, which contain the history of all lovers of God. The companions marched triumphantly to the beat of this silent language of the Lord, as if to hail the momentous occasion. A must was spotted on the road. Baba had him included in his retinue, and the must walked the 4 miles north to Sarnath alongside the group of men. In Sarnath, Dr. Nath had rented a friend's bungalow for Baba and the women outside Sarnath at the village of Paharaya, and another an eighth of a mile away for the men. The Nath and Kare families were to send meals by car from Benares, and thus continued to oversee all arrangements from a distance. On the afternoon of the 2nd, Baba played the dholak as Adi Sr. sang and accompanied himself on the harmonium. Baba instructed Ghani to amend the old life 7 names of God prayer from Hari, Paramatma, Allah, Ahuramasta, God, Yezdan, Hu, to Khuda, Paramatma, Allah, Ahuramasta, God, Alak, attributeless God, Ishwar. Adi sang this for about 15 minutes, with Baba continuing to play the dholak and Nilu chiming in with finger cymbals. Ghani read out a few couplets he had added to a poem he had composed. Baba praised the poem, but admonished Ghani for including a reference to him as Kursh-e-Saman, the avatar. He had him cross out the line and pinch Ghani's ears in repentance. As Ghani noted in his diary, in this new life, Baba scrupulously avoids being referred to as Master, Sadguru, or Avatar. He has even tabooed discussion of spiritual subjects in his presence. Baba admonished all once again that nothing should be said or done in his presence that would in any way recall the old life. Since the beginning of the new life, Padre had been living near Mehrabad, keeping an eye on the persons living there, as well as taking care of the buildings and land. Padre had been called to Sarnath from Ahmednagar to deliver the caravan, 2 bullocks and a bullock cart, but he did not arrive until 3rd December. He had been instructed not to see any of them, especially Baba. Padre was to leave the caravan, cart, and animals at the railway station without conversing with Erich and Pendu, who had to travel to the Mughal Sarai railway station to take delivery. Later, Padre was entrusted to make certain additions and modifications to the caravan. The printed copies of the Song of the New Life arrived in Sarnath that day. Baba distributed a copy to each of the companions and instructed that Nath be given 20 copies. Kare had agreed to send 2 horses and a saddle to Sarnath. Baba said, after Dan and Sadashiv give the horses a trial ride, Ghani will be made to ride. If he succeeds in keeping his seat on the horse, then it will be a sure criterion that the horse is safe for me to ride. Mary consulted, as she knew about horses, and gave her opinion, and one was selected. Sarnath is the most sacred place to Buddhists all over the world, as it is the place where Buddha preached his first sermon and initiated his first 5 disciples. After this time, Sarnath became the center of his activity, and it is said that Buddha remained there. There are many Buddhist temples and giant stupas in Sarnath. In the main temple near the stupas, a Japanese artist had painted frescoes depicting scenes from Buddha's life. There are also separate underground stone rooms originally used for meditation, with steps leading down to them. At that time, these underground caverns were mostly in ruins. Baba took the women to show them this place on the morning of the 3rd, accompanied by Adi and Nilu. When they reached there, he directed Mani to write down on a slip of paper the name of the known avatars in this cycle and give it to him. When Mani handed him the piece of paper with the names of Zoroaster, Ram, Krishna, Buddha, Jesus, and Mohammed, Baba put it in his pocket as he walked down the steps leading underground. On the harsh, cold morning of Monday, December 5th, 1949, Baba walked back to the underground rooms in the subterranean passages of the Sarnath ruins with all the men, except for Kaka and Vishnu, who went 2 days later. Each man had been instructed to wear a langoti, loincloth, under his clothes. Once inside, Baba instructed the companions to remove their clothes except for the langoti. Almost completely naked, every man shivered in the bitter cold. Each companion was handed a copy of the prayer to be offered. Sitting down on the steps, Baba directed each to read the prayer silently in his mind for 15 minutes when he signaled to begin. The ancient surroundings where Gautama Buddha had conferred Diksha, initiation, to his disciples were peaceful and still. Ironically, in the place where Buddha consecrated his life and the lives of his disciples, Baba was praying with his companions to snap the master-disciple connection. Sitting on the steps, all gazed at Baba, who smilingly signaled them to begin silently repeating the following prayer. God, give me the strength to follow the conditions 100%. God, help me to speak the truth and not to tell a lie under any circumstances. God, help me to control anger and to keep away from lustful and greedy desires. God, help me to be just, fair, honest, and kind towards my companions and toward those who come into contact with me. After 15 minutes, Baba signaled to the companions to touch the prayer paper to their foreheads, put on their clothes, and stand in a line. Baba was standing at one end of the passageway, and when the companions were ready, he directed them to approach him one by one and hand over the prayer paper. As he took it, he warmly shook hands with each. Baba's face burst into a brilliant glow, exhibiting his complete satisfaction with the fulfillment of his work. Smiling, Baba and the companions ascended the steps and reached the door, where Baba asked Ghani to loudly repeat 7 times, Ho Gaya, 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 meaning finished or completed. When Ghani was repeating the 2 words, Baba himself joined in by raising his right hand each time. Baba advised the companions to carefully preserve the langoti they had at the time of the prayer, not to use it again unless he directed, and to keep it separate with a special mark on it. Wow.
Thank you, Rosalie.
What
Marvin,
does that mean, that Ho Gaya?
Could you unmute and begin at the top there, Marvin?
Mm-hmm. After touring the main temple, on the way back, okay. On the way back to the bungalow, Ghani remarked to Don that, evidenced by Baba's obvious happiness over some work accomplished, and by having Ghani repeat Ho Gaya, Baba's last main work must be completed. Baba asked what they were talking about, and when he heard that what Ghani had said, he remarked, "This is only the beginning. The end will take care of itself. In the garden of the woman's bungalow, there was a small cottage for the gardener of the estate. Baba had special love for this gardener, often sending Goher to inquire if he needed anything. The man once told her, "No, the Thakur, the titled landowner, has given me everything. I am not in need of anything." By Thakur, Gohar thought the gardener meant the owner of the bungalow, or his boss, who must be seeing to his needs, and informed Baba accordingly. But hearing it, Baba just smiled and explained to her and Mera that the old man meant Krishna himself. Once the gardener asked Goher for a matchbox, which Baba sent. Daily, Baba mentioned this man to the companions, and he referred to him as Sant Mali, meaning saintly gardener. Returning from the underground rooms that day, Baba, along with the companions, went to see the gardener. Sant Mali smiled at them and joyously folded his hands in salutation. Baba praised the man. Quote, "See, even in this bitter cold, he is sleeping on this broken cot in the open. He cooks for himself and has only one cooking pot. All year round, he eats only boiled rice with salt. Getting up at 4 in the morning, he begins repeating Sita Ram, Sita Ram. He goes to the well for a bath every morning at 4 and works in the garden the whole day. He needs nothing and is always happy. He delights in presenting me with 5 radishes daily. He desires nothing because he is a saint. His only desire is for Thakur, Lord, and for that his Thakur, Baba, has come to visit him today." And we have a footnote. The gardener was a simple, humble man with saintly qualities, not a six-plane peer. On the sixth afternoon, Neela questioned Baba, "What exactly do you mean by the new life?" And Baba replied, "The new life is not a form of yoga, nor is it asceticism. It can never be cut and dry. The proper word for it in Sufism is ruidi, which means freedom from form and religion. If and when we get things to eat, we eat plentifully. If we do not get, we starve cheerfully. Whatever comes, we enjoy or suffer happily. But our aim is aimlessness. Our help is helplessness. Our hope is hopelessness. The complete destruction of the old life is my new life, which must be and will be wet, meaning joyful." Padre was still in the area, overseeing the work on the camel cart and the caravan. On 7 December 1949, Baba asked, "Is it right that Padre should not be told anything about the progress of the new life?" The companions reminded Baba that he had told all concerned at Mehrabad that the new life would be an open book for all to read. There won't be any privacy or secrecy governing it, and the arrangement wallahs would be kept informed of the different stages and progress. Baba then ordered Erich to tell Padre all the details of the new life thus far. Padre should also be instructed to stop in Bombay on his return journey and inform Meherji and Nariman of the same. Meherji and Nariman will relate the information to the women Mandali staying with them. Padre should go to Pune and do likewise with Papa, who will tell the Baba House, Gadikar, and Ghani families. However, Padre is not to inform Erich of any news of the old life people and affairs. Gaya Prasad Kare and his son, Dr. Kare, came at 5 p.m. and offered Baba the white horse and Bhiksha on behalf of Dr. Kare's mother. Baba accepted it by taking the reins of the horse and then sending it to the companions. Footnote: Ghani mentions in his diary that the horse was named Kumas, but it was never called this. A discussion was held with the companions on 8 December about the begging and food arrangements. Ghani remarked, Baba, I cannot help feeling about the atmosphere prevailing in the meeting. You have all along been saying that I am now on your level, but I don't feel that level or equality. The meeting of the companions with you in their midst seems to be a conference of mice and rats, with the cat presiding over the deliberations. All seem to nod and acquiesce with what you say, lest any slip or misadventure may prove their undoing. Baba offered to let Ghani take full responsibility for organizing the begging program in any way he liked, but the companions voted to continue with the program as Baba had outlined. The meeting ended by Baba declaring, I gave you all a chance and you did not take it. I was not at all displeased. I meant what I said. I was serious when I made the offer. I would really have been happy if Ghani, with the help of you all, had taken up the problem of begging for food. Hereafter, I won't have any murmurs or grumblings from any of you. Now that you have missed the chance, I may perhaps draw the sword, become stricter. I don't promise. Baba spent 12 days in Sarnath. During this period, he discussed with the companions the foot journey from Sarnath to Hardwar, and it was decided that the baggage should be sent north to Mandri Mafi by cargo train. Baba stated, the 1,000 rupees we received from Nath and Kare in exchange for the clothes and trunks have already been spent. We now need an additional rupees 300 to 400 for the freight charges. From where are we going to get that amount? After a while, Baba mentioned his solution. Be ready to sell your watches so that we can meet this expense. So every man resigned in his mind to thinking that he was taking another step further toward final air weight, took off his watch and placed it before Baba. Baba, however, told Don, Pendu, and Adi to keep theirs as they were often sent on outside work for which they would need their watches to be punctual. 12 watches were collected, including one from the women. Baba then instructed Erich to send a telegram to Keki Desai in Delhi to come to Benares with the sum of rupees 500. When Desai arrived on the 8th, he was given the 12 watches in exchange for the amount. All the luggage was dispatched with him to Dehradun on the 10th. Keki was instructed to sell the watches to recover his money. Dr. Nath and Dr. Kare had sent a camel, christened Bola Baba, Innocent One, the camel cart, 2 cows with their calves, 2 she-donkeys, and a white horse to Sarnath. Footnote, the women recalled the camel's name as Bola Ram. Individual duties for looking after these were assigned in a morning discussion on 10 December. Don pointed out that during the journey, the companions would be sleeping out in the open in the severe cold. So Baba ordered Vishnu to purchase second-hand, if possible, khaki woolen pants and socks. Vishnu was successful in purchasing the pants, but not the socks, and Baba distributed a pair to each companion before retiring for the night. In the afternoon of 11 December 1949, the day before they left, Baba discussed with the companions how best to acknowledge the services rendered by Kare and Nath. Although their services were undoubtedly by way of bhiksha, Baba explained, I still feel a wee bit of a boja, burden, due to their sincerity and wholeheartedness. In spite of so many inhibitions, tribulations, corrections, and bindings imposed, and despite their being new to me and my ways, of getting things done. In appreciation, Baba granted an audience to Gaya Prasad, Dr. Kare, and Dr. Nath, and his brother at 5 p.m. at the women's bungalow. They were told not to offer any homage and not to ask any questions. Baba had Erich read out this message from him. In the beginning of this new life, God had ordained for me and my companions to be connected with the Nath and Kare families. All that Dr. Nath and Chairman Nath's brother, and all that the father Kare and his son Dr. Kare have offered to me in Bhiksha has been done with wholehearted love, and I have accepted this Bhiksha with still greater love. From the 12th onwards, this connection must cease. I have to keep the spirit of this new life in real earnest. I must not seek help in a way that would go against the conditions that I have laid down. Till January the 1st, it will not be difficult as we have enough provisions. But after 1st January 1950, we will live on begging and labor without asking for or accepting money. In this new life of complete renunciation and absolute helplessness, hardships will gradually increase. And if what I have in mind comes true, after about 2 months' stay at Hardwar, the real hardships of the new life will take shape, and we will plunge in the new life 100%. This new life is endless and will be kept alive by all those who wish to keep it alive. The relics of my and my companions' clothes must either be used or kept by you two families, but must not be given away. The messages that I have been sending with Erich and Adi were all dictated by me and were correctly conveyed. Baba Das has been trying to do his best to help me in his own way, although he may have created misunderstandings due to his zeal and way of approach. A copy of the message in English was handed to Nath and in Hindi to Kare, who were delighted to have their opportunity of being in Baba's presence since Baba had arrived in Benares. On the morning of departure, Baba handed a blanket to Sant Mali and some clothes to another gardener. Sant Mali's hands were spread to receive Bhagwan's gift, as he called it, but he was so dazed he did not realize when Baba was placing the bundle in his hands. Baba came out of his cottage with his arms draped around St. Mali's shoulder and gazed at the Nath and Kare families from a distance. In light of their inordinately sincere and wholehearted, selfless service rendered, Baba had invited them there on his last day in Sarnath so they could have a second glimpse of him. Footnote. With Baba's permission, 5 more persons had also been invited by Kare and Nath, one of whom was the district sessions judge of Benares. At 7:30 on Monday morning, 12th December 49, Baba, leading the way, left Sarnath on foot with the 4 women and Erich and Don nearby. The whole caravan followed an hour and a half later. The white horse, symbolizing purity and the sanctity of the Avatar's advent, was in Baba Das's charge. Footnote, on reaching a halting place, Baba Das's duty was to end, and Don was to take charge of the horse for feeding, etc. The rest, behind it came the camel cart driven by Baidul, the bullock cart driven by Sadashiv, the New Life caravan pulled by the black English bull Raja with Pendu driving, followed by the 2 cows and their calves looked after by Nilu, and lastly the 2 donkeys in Ghani and Gustaji's charge. Footnote, the English bull Raja had been named by Baba. It and another bull, Pradhan, had been given to him by Sarosh as calves in Meribah and were raised there. Baba sometimes fed them milk from a bottle. Pradhan had died just before the new life began. The rest of the companions, while walking, were to stay on both sides of the camel cart, caravan, and bullock cart, lest the animals get out of control for some reason. The procession rendezvoused with Baba and the women in Shivpur at 11:30 a.m. The companions and Baba were dressed in white kafnis with green turbans, and the women wore blue cotton saris. When the complete entourage began again, it was a wonderful sight. Footnote: it was such an exalted moment when the caravan departed Sarnath. Padre, who had been permitted to remain in the area until Baba departed, was watching from a distance and often expressed how he wished he could have photographed the caravan and all the animals following. But during the new life, taking photographs of Baba was not permitted. The gypsy life had begun. Age was in an exalted state while witnessing this scene. It drank in every detail to describe to generations to come. The angels wept in longing to participate in the Creator's caravan, how they wished to take physical form to walk by his side.
Thanks, Marvin. Eva, could you unmute and continue from the top of the page?
Certainly. As if to subdue lust, greed, and anger, Age declared, the caravan of men, women, and animals marched on. Hearing the tinkle of the camel's bell, these deep-rooted weaknesses in man began to tremble. As Mani later recounted, our camel of the new life had a Persian silver bell around its neck. The bell of the camel is mentioned in the verses of Hafiz. The bell worn by the leading camel of a caravan is symbolic of progress. It tolls to remind a caravan which has halted at an oasis and is unwilling to move on in the desert again. Move on. This is not your destination. Forward. And footnote. Tales from the New Life, Begin Library, 1976, compiled by Don E. Stevens. Passerby were intensely curious about this strange group of travelers. They asked the companions about their caste and sect and where they were heading. When told the caravan was proceeding to Hardwar, they bowed in respect. For the first time in many years, the Kumbh Mela was to be held in Hardwar, and the caravan's destination made people think the companions were some sort of monks and the women nuns. Who knew of their helplessness? Who could understand it? Who could fathom that it was their helplessness which was decanting to them the nectar of strength and steadfastness? Such helplessness comes from relying solely upon God, and such strength comes from complete dependence upon God. When such helplessness reaches its zenith, it blossoms into a perfect smile, which contains within itself the whole universe. Controlling the horse, cows, calves, and donkeys proved a continual headache. Don led the horse by its reins. Ghani and Gustaji had charge of the two donkeys, who every few minutes refused to move forward. Ghani grew tired trying to coax the stubborn asses forward. Similarly, Nilu and Aloba had a rough time handling the cows, and Nilu, in the end, had to carry one of the calves across his shoulders. Once, when Ghani was grumbling about the donkeys, Adi, who was enjoying witnessing Ghani's predicament, observed, Yes, dear doctor, you love to read all sorts of discourses, discuss philosophy, etc., to pontificate about spirituality is a joy, but to live it is a suffering. Baba overheard his remark and appreciated it. The first day they halted at 11:30 a.m. in the compound of a school in Dharamshala, 2 miles beyond Shivpur in the Vyas Bagh locality. Baba and the women occupied one building, and the mandali another rectangular building with a thatched roof and mud floor. There was a well in the compound and a concrete fodder trough for the animals to feed. Baba served lunch provided by the Nath and Kaur families, and then asked for a report of the mandali's journey. Later, Baba sent Baba Das and Erich out begging. Erich first approached the hut of a very poor old woman, but she had nothing to give, not even a little flour. Yet she told Erich to wait, and borrowing some flour from a neighbor, lovingly gave it to Erich as alms. How fortunate was this poor woman. The God-man had sent his companions to beg at her door, and she did not fail to give him something, even if she had nothing herself. In the bitter cold of the winter night, the companions remained in the open. Since their extra clothes had been sold, they were miserable, despite the newly acquired woolen pants. The 4 women slept inside the caravan. Kaka and Murli prepared food, and Pendu, Dan, Nilu, Aloba, and Sadashiv and Baidu looked after the feeding and watering of the animals. Because of the extreme cold, none of the companions could sleep. Feeling unduly troubled, Dr. Ghani devised a plan, declaring, "Now is the time we should go on strike. From tomorrow, none of us should do any work. We must sit and protest. When we have to die, why not die here? What's the use of going further? No one will be able to survive this cold." The men appeared to side with Ghani, and he was very pleased with himself. But early in the next morning, when Baba approached them, the men deserted Ghani and resumed their duties. Ghani stood alone, looking foolish. Taking into consideration Ghani's age and physical condition, Baba permitted him to take a seat next to Kaka and Pendu at the front of the caravan, on condition that he go out begging with Baba Das wherever they halted. The group left Shivpur at 8 o'clock on the morning of Tuesday, 13 December 1949. From there, the she-donkeys were put under the women's charge. While walking, the women would pick up small branches and sticks that they needed for the cooking fire and load them on the donkeys. One day, as Mera, Mani, Meru, and Goher were occupied with picking up sticks and twigs as they walked, a bullock cart came alongside them. Awestruck at the scene before him, the cartman asked where they were going. They replied that they were proceeding to Hardwar. Respectfully, the driver invited them to sit in his cart, but Meru solemnly answered, "We are on a pilgrimage to Hardwar, so we must go on foot. I'm sorry, but we cannot ride on the cart." Humbly, the cartman said, "But please sit for a while, sister. The sacred purpose of your journey will not be affected by your occupying seats in my cart." Mani replied, A pilgrimage should be undertaken on foot. What sort of pilgrimage would it be if it were made in comfort? So the cartman drove off, but after traveling some distance, he came to a halt. Meanwhile, Baba came back from the men and directed the women to sit in the caravan. They took their seats, and Mani and Meru pulled back the curtains to peer outside. After a little while, the caravan passed the cartman resting. When he saw the women sitting comfortably inside, he threw such a contemptuous look at Mani and Meru that they could only slump down and hide their embarrassed faces. Only then did they realize why Baba had made them sit in the caravan. Baba returned and directed the women to resume their walk. It was a lesson for both women that, as usual, nothing was hidden from him. The group continued for 7 miles and arrived at Babatpur at midday. They camped 1.5 miles beyond the village under a grove of trees of a Mahadev temple in Dharamshala. Baba distributed shiki, which is Indian peanut brittle, and sent Ghani and Babadas out to beg. Kaka was to prepare tea at 5 p.m. and dinner of rice and dal at 6. Assisting Kaka, Murli was so tired that he was peeling and cutting onions while reclining. Kaka was exasperated by this, probably because he thought Murli could do a better job while seated, but he could not say anything in criticism under the conditions of the new life. Although they had enough provisions with them to last until the end of December, at every stop, Baba would send the companions out to beg. He observed, "If we find a good place to stay in Jaunpur, we will remain there for 4 or 5 days, and there I will think of a plan for providing good food within the conditions and oaths of the new life." On December 14, everyone rose at 3:30 a.m. in the darkness of the middle of the night, amidst the bitter cold. After Pendu, Don, Sadashiv, and Baidu had fed and hitched the animals, and the group had tea and breakfast, they left Babatpur at 7:30. This time, Baba and the women walked behind the entire procession. The horse, cows, and donkeys continued to be the cause of much trouble. For this reason, Baba sent Adi and Babadas ahead to Jaunpur by bus to make arrangements to send the animals by freight train from there to Hardwar. They were also to locate a suitable place to stay in Jaunpur. Wherever they went, the caravan presented a curious sight to those who passed it. Near one village, a group of women were drawing water from a well.
Thank you, Eva.
You're welcome.
Rolf, could you unmute and continue reading from the top of the page?
Okie dokie. On seeing the caravan, they ran toward the women companions, excitedly asking where they were heading. Learning they were on their way to Hardwar, they asked, "Are you going all the way on foot?" Mani replied, that was their intention. Hearing this, the villagers hurried home to assemble a bundle of clothes to accompany them. After this incident, Baba ordered the 4 women inside the caravan out of sight. An 11-mile walk that morning brought them to 11-mile walk that morning brought them to Rehati about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, where they halted in a mango orchard. Kaka prepared food. Ghani and Gustaji went for begging. Local villagers gathered, and some of the village women declared that they had come for the darshan of the women going to Hardwar on foot. In Sarnath, Baba had remarked, during the foot journey, we will be honored and insulted both, but we must remain unaffected in either case. The former seemed to be coming true, for in Rahati the 4 women were the subject of great respect. During one halt, excuse me, just a second, please. During one halt, as Mani interpreted his gestures, Baba asked one of the village women how she felt physically. She replied that she felt like dancing before him, but she had so many aches and pains that wasn't possible. Baba had some homeopathic medicine brought from Baidul and offered it to her. Looking at the tiny globules, the woman laughed. I have so much pain. How could these small pills help me? Baba gave her a few, telling her to swallow them. She did so, and within a few minutes was executing a few twirls for Baba. Golly. Again, the companions were up very early at 3 a.m. on Thursday, 15 December 1949, but it was 7 o'clock before all preparations to start were complete. Leaving Rahati, they covered 4 miles before halting under some trees near a village. Here, the village children gathered about Baba and gave a drill exhibition of physical exercises. Ghani was sent ahead to intimate Adi and Babadas of the estimated time of the group's arrival. After a short rest at about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, they came to a river where they rested again. Kaka prepared tea for all. The white horse somehow got excited and shied, and Don had difficulty bringing it under control. Walking several miles, they arrived at Jaunpur at 4 in the afternoon. They went straight to the town, but could not find any of the 3 companions who had been sent in advance. As elsewhere, the caravan was a strange sight for the people of Jaunpur, and a crowd was beginning to gather. When Adi, Ghani, and Babadas arrived in Atanga, Baba rejected the first spot he was shown. So Ghani led him and the entire caravan to another spot 2 miles away. It was almost dark by the time they reached there, and Baba approved it. They were to stay there for the next 5 days. Before setting out, Adi and Babadas had been instructed by Baba to live by begging while they were searching for a place to stay. They walked all over Jaunpur, but failed to find a suitable accommodation that fit the conditions. Exhausted, they sat down to decide the next step. Baba Das's rheumatic pain almost made him break down. Adi complained for some decent food. After deliberating, Adi hired a Tonga, and they went to a restaurant. Out of the sum he had been given to arrange for the accommodation, Adi paid the Tonga driver 10 rupees for the 50 paisa fare, pleading, "Brother, give us food as alms." The Tonga driver cocked his head to one side and with a puzzled expression asked, "What did you say, sir?" "Don't ask me again," said Adi. "If you don't give us food as bhiksha, we will starve. Come with us to the restaurant, order the food, and tell us that it is alms for us from you. Then we will all do justice to it." Never had such a strange request been made of the man. He stared at Adi, who looked far from starving, in astonishment, but he did as requested and paid for the meal from the money Adi had given him for the Tonga fare. During lunch, someone else care to read now?
Thank you, Ralph. During lunch, while they were talking to the Tonga driver, they were informed about a vacant estate called Kai Bog. Obtaining the owner's address, Adi went to see him. The owner agreed to let them stay there, and Adi went to look at the place, accompanied by a servant. Looking from outside the wall, Adi thought it would serve the purpose within the conditions laid down by Baba, and so he approved it. The gate was locked, and Adi asked the servant to unlock it. He said the keys were misplaced and told Adi to have someone break it. Although Adi hesitated at first, nevertheless he had the lock broken. He then went inside and had a look at the garden. There were a few broken down edifices and a platform. The garden was quite extensive, and Adi liked it very much. However, while he was inspecting the premises, another man arrived with 2 police officers. When Adi came out, one of the policemen asked, "Why did you break the lock?" Adi was taken aback, and upon inquiring, came to know that the property was under a legal dispute. The man who had allowed him to stay there, whom Adi thought was the landlord, and the other man who had come with the police were suing each other in court for ownership. Adi explained his actions briefly, requesting the man who had come with the police to allow them to stay for a few days. After Adi's entreaty, the man grudgingly agreed. The entire caravan stayed in Kai Bog, but Baba did not permit the women to use the buildings. The companions remained outside in the Maidan, that's the open grounds, and the women slept in the caravan. And during the day, occupied a platform nearby. The place was dirty, so the women cleaned it thoroughly. To reach Jaunpur, Baba and the companions had walked 38 miles in 4 days in the freezing cold. With no shelter, they had slept in the open in that weather, and the food, too, was not substantial. At every halting place, they had to tend to the animals, to water them, bring fodder, feed them, and tie them up at suitable places. Attend to minor repairs to the carts, beg for food, cook, clean pots, fetch water, and wash clothes. All these and other small things added to their exhaustion. But the intense cold did not allow them much rest. It was therefore with a sigh of relief that the companions greeted these words from Baba on December 16th. Let the camel cart, 2 cows and calves be sold for the best price possible. Don, Erich, and Pendu should go to the railway station to make inquiries about sending the 2 donkeys, White Horse, bullocks, and bullock cart by freight train to Hardwar. Baba decided to sell the cows as he had gotten them at half price, and also because, due to the young calves, the companion's pace had been slowed. The camel likewise walked at a plodding speed, and the camel cart would often break down. The donkeys were to be kept. As the women had discovered, they would readily move forward when their backs were loaded. The White Horse could not be sold as it was received in alms. During their halt at Jaunpur, Ghani was ordered to go out begging with a different companion each day. Adi was to bring lunch from the town, a vegetable and chapatis, or puris and raw tomatoes and radishes, for which the area is famous. Kaka was to cook dinner of rice and dal. On September morning, December 18th, 1949, Baba addressed the companions. Taking into consideration the facts and circumstances faced up to now, I am going to finalize a plan which, once adopted, must not be changed or compromised until the endless end. I went through the conditions circular this morning with Erich and Ghani. Before I decide upon this plan as final, I must know from you all one thing definitely. Nobody knows this plan. Only Erich has been given a hint about it. Listen to me carefully. You all know that for each of you individually, I have kept 1,000 rupees with Meherji, in case I send you away without any fault on your part. In addition, an extra 10,000 rupees is with him, for which 100 rupees each can be given as traveling expenses, if any of you is sent away without fault. But if any of you is told to leave for a deliberate offense, he will receive neither the 1,000 rupees nor the 100 rupees traveling expense. The no-wallas and those who were not asked to say yes or no have been given certain amounts with a view to relieve myself to some extent from the promises given to them by me to provide for them. Naturally, therefore, if I send any of you back, I must do something for you. I have done my utmost by keeping aside 1,000 rupees for each of you against such a contingency. This was the best I could do under the circumstances. As I have said, in case any of you is sent away without any fault on your part, he will get 1,000 rupees. Now, to finalize the plan and keep the conditions and my oath 100% intact, and also to make us face the new life of helplessness boldly and strongly, we must have better food to keep our mood. If we have to pass through the jaws of a tiger, we should do so with courage and cheer, and not like a sheep, bleating and terrified. Now I want to know who among you is willing to give me your 1,000 rupees share. As you are still faultless ones, I can, without jeopardizing the conditions and my oath, accept the money to fulfill the plan. Only this money belonging to the companions can be used for the furtherance of the new life. What I mean is that if I send any one of you away, then you must accept it that you have already received the 1,000 rupees meant for you, as the same amount is also apportioned to the no-wallas and others. 100 rupees will be left for traveling for whosoever is sent away without fault. All this means that any of you, after giving up your sum of 1,000 rupees toward the new life of the companions, should not feel the slightest bit let down at the prospect of confronting worldly life without a pie, without a cent in your pocket. This goes on, but let's stop here. Top of page 2851.